The all-important blitz clash between Wesley So and Praggnanandhaa. Pragg is on fire here at the Sinquefield Cup as he won the first blitz playoff against Fabiano Caruana. He now takes on Wesley So. If Pragg manages to win this one, he will become the Sinquefield Cup champion. But if Wesley manages to strike here, things are wide open, and then we would have the third blitz game between Wesley and Fabi. Pragg, you can see, looks totally determined here with the black pieces. He's already won so many tournaments this year in tie break. The Tata Steel, the Bucharest Grand Chess Tour, the US Chess Cup, and so many. And will this be another victory that will go to his name in tie breaks? Will Wesley So be able to stop him? So many questions here. It's 5 minutes plus 2 seconds increment. The players are ready. Handshake and off we go. E4 by Wesley So, E5 by Praggnanandhaa. A solid opening. A draw also is an excellent result for Pragg. Knight to C6, Bishop C4, he goes Bishop C5. We have the Italian on the board. Now Wesley pauses a bit to think what should be the right way to continue. He goes C3 and D3. Pragg plays his pawn to A6, making some space for his bishop to drop down to A7. Bishop G5, a fighting weapon by Wesley So. And in a must-win game for him, this is a good idea. Bishop A7 played by Pragg. It's not like totally must-win for Wesley, because a draw means then he has to beat Fabi. But still, I mean, if you are white against Pragg, you would want to try. A4, gaining space on the queen side. And Pragg now thinking about how to continue. Should he go for this H6, Bishop H4, G5 ideas? He goes Knight E7. This is also another approach where you want to put your knight on G6 and push H6. Wesley can take on F6. He adjusts all the pieces and spoil Pragg's structure, or he could just castle here, and when knight G6 he can play something else, but he takes, pawn takes. Now this structure is super solid for black, but also the F5 square is a bit weakened. Also the king is a bit weak on E8. You don't want to short castle. He goes knight to G6, pawn to D4 and H5. So Pragg really pushing in. You can see Pragg looking confident. He also has 20 extra seconds on the clock. Plays H4, another strong move. And maybe he wants to get into H3 as well and soften up the light squares. Wesley goes knight to F1, calmly retreating his knight. Look at Wesley there zoning in on the board. Well, this definitely means a lot to him. If he can win the Sinquefield Cup, it would be amazing for him. Meanwhile, for Praggnanandhaa, there's a lot of willpower on his face. You know, he looks super confident. But right now, the position, what should he do? Bishop E6 seems like a good move. So if you take, pawn takes. But you have to be careful, because whenever you play Bishop E6, takes, pawn takes, Queen B3 is a double attack on B7 and E6. Also, Wesley has this idea of knight E3, knight F5. So maybe Bishop E6, if you take, Fe6 covers the F5 and D5 square. So that's good news over there. And right now, Pragg taking a lot of time for this move. Maybe he's a bit confused about how should he continue. There is knight F4 here, rook G8 ideas. He goes Bishop E6. That's an interesting move, and he took close to 1.5 minutes for that one. It's a lot of time there. And now Wesley calms himself down. He's thinking about what he should be doing. He takes on E6, Fe6 taken, and Queen B3. Now the attack is on the B7 pawn and the E6 pawn. And how should he figure this out is the question. Pragg has few options now. He can go queen d7, but then there is queen takes b7. And you can go king f7 and bring your rook to g8 or bishop to b6. So that's one way to play. The other way, and a very, very interesting way, is to play king d7, but that's just like a computer way, because after queen b6, you have this bishop b6 idea, and idea is rook a7 trapping the queen. So then there is this passive queen c8, which I do not like because your queen gets passive, rook gets passive. Pragg does find king d7. Wow. But look at Pragg's time usage. He's down to 2 minutes 29 seconds. But this is such a pretty line, right? Queen b7, bishop b6, and there's just no way for the queen to get out. You can play d5, but then I go knight e7 and I take away the c6 square. And when you take, I take here. Still the queen is trapped. Wesley, of course, doesn't fall for it. He quickly plays the move h3 and he puts the ball back in Pragg's court. He's like, Pragg, I can still take here, but I may not take it. You know, I'm putting this pressure. I'm asking you the questions. I'm asking you the right questions. And Pragg, who's now down to 2 minutes on the clock, has to figure things out. And, you know, he's getting a bit nervous. He's getting a bit nervous. Wesley playing this blitz game really well. Maybe rook b8 is not a bad idea. But then knight e3, rook a d1, white's moves are flowing. So he goes queen e7. And the idea is knight to e3. He brings the knight here, looking at the d5 and f5 squares. And black goes king c8, defending the pawn on b7. Oops. The rook on a8 is a bit closed now. I mean, he would have loved to have the rook on g8, but there was no time. Rook a d1 played. Because once the knight is on e3, there's also knight c4 ideas. Pragg jumps in with knight to f4, looking at these two squares. Wesley now has 3 minutes. Pragg has 1 minute 25 seconds. King h2, a useful move to make getting the king out. And also another beautiful plan comes to light, which is knight g1 to e2. That's a great plan. So maybe there is queen at 7 to put pressure on the e4 pawn. It's quite an interesting move that Pragg can play. But Pragg is playing too slow. He needs to speed up here. Pragg, go for it. You can't be so slow. He's gone under the 1 minute mark. He plays queen g7 with 52 seconds on the clock. And Wesley, who has 3 minutes now to figure things out, what's his move going to be? He adjusts Pragg's queen. Notice that the e6 pawn is defended by the knight here, and the mate that is threatened here is defended by the knight on e3. So clearly white can never take here on e5 because bishop e3 is game over. It's a mate on g2. So this tension here is quite intense. And so Wesley now plays knight g1. He took 46 seconds for that move, but finds an insane idea. Knight g1 with the idea of knight e2. I love this. So you want to trade off this very active knight on f4. That's what you want to do. And Pragg maybe can go queen g6 to attack the e4 pawn. That can be one plan. He goes rook g8 and knight e2. What a move, because if knight takes g2, there is queen e6 check and rook g1 also. So goes king d7. But now this doesn't help because yes, you protect e6, but now knight f4. ef4 and you put the knight on g4. That's beautiful play. He finds it, takes knight g4. Now, there could be a mate potentially on g2. But can you play f5? He plays f3 first. Wow. because f5 was not working. You take, and the queen comes to e6. So that's the reason why f3 played by Pragg. Now can we go rook e3? Rook e3 attacks the pawn here. There's a lot of tension that's boiling here. And Wesley has good amount of time to figure out what to do. He plays rook e3. I love this move. It's such a good move. Pragg takes the pawn, rook f3, putting pressure on the f6 pawn. Threatening here. Pragg brings his rook to f8. But now can Wesley enter with queen takes b7, attacking the bishop here? It seems he can. He takes the pawn. It's excellent move. And now if bishop b6, you can get your queen out with d5. Goes f5. What a move here by Praggnanandhaa. And his point is, if you move the knight, I'm just queening here. So take could happen potentially. E takes f5. E takes f5, and now knight to e5 check. And so pawn takes, king d8, because the rook is standing here, so he didn't take it. And now g1, queen is a threat. You can play knight c6, but king g1 is a killer blow. What a move by Wesley. He just simply stops this pawn, he stops all the attack, and rest is now over. a5, what a move. If you take bishop a5, knight c6 check, and I pick up the bishop. He takes check, king up, knight wins the bishop. Wesley So is winning. Pragg shaking his head. This means that Wesley will also move to 1 point, and Pragg would no longer be winning this tournament. I mean, potentially he still has chance if Fabi beats Wesley, but it's no longer in his hands. King c8 played. And Wesley So, well, this guy is amazing. Rook e3. He attacks the queen. Queen comes to g5. And a check. King comes up to d7. And it's time to double down the e-file. A check coming in. Another check here. Pragg resigns. Wesley So scores a very important win. What a game this was. And I think an outstanding effort by Wesley So, finding some key moves like rook e3 and rook f3, and finally that crowning move king g1. Absolutely lovely blitz play.